Welcome to Pathetic, the podcast. The gang is all here. I am down in sunny Florida. I had to get out of that cold weather in the Northeast. I was done with it. I am leaving tomorrow to get back up into it, but looks like we might get some good weather. The gang is all here. Please go ahead, like, subscribe, tell your friends about the podcast. Our link tree will be in the corner. So please like and subscribe. Tell a friend about the podcast. We're trying to grow this thing as much as we can. But like I said, the gang is all here. Teddy, how are we doing today?
Doing good, Mikey. I wish I was down in Florida. I'm battling this stupid head cold. I'm sure a couple of hours on the beach would really do wonders. But listen, I'm not. I'm still alive, so I can't complain. Jeff, what's up with you, buddy?
Nothing much, man. It's 75 degrees down here.
Shut up.
But tomorrow's going to be like 50 and 40. So I'd almost rather have it consistent, at least one, so I don't get these teases. But yeah, I mean, outside of the sports world being a little boring right now, we're kind of in that time. I'm doing great.
Nice.
Yeah, it is definitely the February and March doldrums. Until we get to March Madness, we're kind of in a little bit of a lull here, but we do have a couple of things that we have to recap since our last episode. The one big one being the USA men and women's hockey teams winning the gold medal. You had it here first. Your boy Mikey Mush picked that back at the beginning of the Olympics. I was all in on Team USA. What a couple of games there. Unbelievable finishes to both of those overtime games. Guys, what are we thinking about the gold medal?
Yeah, that was awesome. You know, that was a time where even if you're not a hockey fan, which you guys know I'm really not, that was just an absolutely 100% exciting game to watch against Canada. Every single person in the country, you know, whether you're a Devils fan, a Rangers fan, you were rooting for Team USA. You know, even the Ranger fans became Jack Hughes fans for at least a brief moment. Now that's going to change once the season, you know, next year, I guess, for these two gets going again. But just an awesome game, an exciting game. I love the fact that it was in the morning as opposed to at night. You could wake up, get your breakfast, maybe put a little whiskey in the coffee, and enjoy the game. It was awesome. It was exciting, and I thought Jack Hughes handled everything like a humble pro is what I would describe him as, right? Because I didn't know a lot about him. I knew who he was, but he took a huge jump in terms of popularity throughout the country, and he just handled everything like a true pro. Mike, I know you're a Rangers fan, but you got to be pumped for this kid. And it was amazing. It was absolutely awesome. And I think we can all agree and be on the same page with that. There's no question about it.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the reason why 90% of the jerseys that are worn in that arena are Jack Hughes jerseys. He had, to me, I was really surprised. You know, he's a really good player, but there are times that he really gets pushed around and muscled around because he's a little bit on the smaller side.
He's very small.
Yeah, but he really showed something in that gold medal game. He really did. He just refused to give up. And we also got to look at how good his brother Quinn is. And Quinn is great. And that team, you know, if they played Canada 10 times, Canada might beat them 7 times.
Right.
But they didn't this time. And
you
know,
that's that night.
But not that night. But also what annoyed me was the coach, Cooper, saying that, you know, he thought, you know, we definitely outplayed the Americans. If the overtime was different, we would have beat them. Well, they advanced because of the same overtime rules. Right. You know, I guess they beat Switzerland or Sweden, and
yep.
You know, and they advanced. So just because they lost, now they're going to be, you know, they're going to be sore losers, and then they're all going around talking about how, you know, they thought they were the better team. Even the women's Canadian team, you know, showing their silver medals and going, silver medal still shines bright. Shut up. Just shut up. You know, you got beat.
Yep. What I will say is, this is not figure skating, folks. There is a scoreboard. It's very easy to determine who wins. It's how many goals go into the net. There is no ice dance controversy, which we'll get to later with the mush picks. It is you score the most goals, you win the game. That's it. And Team USA did that. Was it a crazy match in terms of them being most of the game was in their own zone and Hullebuck had to stand on his head for the entire game? But you know what? I will give the USA coach Mike Sullivan credit. He had been such a maligned person. He gets fired from Pittsburgh. He goes to the Rangers. They're in last place. He's got to think that maybe I don't have it anymore in terms of being a good coach. And this just showed you that you give him the right guys, he could find a way to get this team to a victory. And as a Rangers fan, that's going to make you feel good that that's the case. And you got to feel good about the way that Vinny Trocheck, if he is still on the team after the trade deadline, you got to like him being in this group and JT Miller and all of that. So, you know, those guys got a little bit of wins under their belt. Maybe that could be a momentum shift going forward. They just got scored on in the first 5 minutes of the game tonight, of course. So, you know, it's the same thing for the Rangers every single day this year. But that's for another day. We're still in USA #1 gold medal. We'll take it.
Yeah. And Uncle Teddy, I got to touch on something you brought up about the coach, Cooper, bringing up the excuses. There's nothing worse than losing and making excuses, especially in sports, right? Really in anything, but especially in sports. Just take the loss like a man. Don't come out all of a sudden out of nowhere and complaining about the 3-on-3 overtime rules when you know if they won that game, you wouldn't hear a peep from him. He wouldn't say anything about the rules. So, look, you can make the case that, first of all, I like the 3-on-3. I think it's awesome, right? I really do. I think it makes it more exciting and more of not incentive, but more of a pressure to score, right? But to make an excuse after you lose, it's just such a bad look, right? Canada shouldn't be embarrassed about losing that game. Just like if the U.S. lost, they shouldn't be embarrassed. But to make the excuses post-loss, that's embarrassing. You can't do that in any sport.
Well, here's the other thing. What Cooper might not be really remembering is the 3 players on the ice for Canada arguably might be the 3 best players in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah, on the planet.
So,
at the same time.
Planet.
They should have the advantage there. They should have had. They really probably did have the advantage, actually, if you think about it.
Mike, you know what was funny? We were in Great Wolf Lodge that weekend, right? And my one granddaughter was sick, so I kind of got confined to the room. I hung with her. And at about 7 o'clock, I forget what channel it was on, might have been TNT or TBS, they started playing the movie Miracle. And they played it on a loop the whole night until the morning. And I think I sat through it like 4 times. At one point, Peachy woke up and she goes, "Wait, is that still on?" I said, "It's like the 4th time I've seen it." Such a great. Jeff, you've seen that, right?
Oh, of course, I've seen Miracle. Yes.
Okay. No, I just asked because there's so many movies you haven't seen.
I know. Believe me, I know. But Miracle, of course. I haven't seen it a lot, but I've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it a lot. But yep, that was great. That was awesome.
We got a beautiful gold medal games. The Olympics are over. We are now moving into spring. Spring has sprung in most places around the country. Not so much in the Northeast, but I think it's coming next week for us. I'm down here in Florida. I'm about 90 minutes to the closest spring training field. I am about 3 hours from Tampa. I'm about 3.5 hours from Port St. Lucie, from where I am currently. But we got spring training baseball to talk about. We have, realistically, spring training, in my opinion, you look at the first game that you watch that for 5 minutes, you watch the first couple innings till the starters come out, and then it's like, okay, let's get to opening day. Just don't get anybody hurt. You know, the Yankees are playing very well. I think they're 9-3, I think, in the Grapefruit League so far.
They have a great record.
I just want to keep everybody healthy and get everybody fired up and ready to go. Get the pitchers ready, get the hitters ready, and let's get into this. So, what are you guys' thoughts on spring training so far?
Yeah, I find spring training to be unbearable, to be honest. I really do. I watched the first couple games. I want to see a few players, mainly for the Yankees, Spencer Jones, who looks like This guy might be ready to go, Mike. I don't know. I mean,
Yep.
I don't like rushing guys in because it can potentially ruin them. But this kid is going to be really, really good, which isn't a surprise. You know, he's a power hitter. He looks comfortable. And they showed, I'm not saying he's Ohtani, but they showed a comparison between the swings. I don't know if you guys saw this. It's like identical to Ohtani's. This kid is probably ready right now. Trent Grisham is getting in the way. Quite frankly, that deal probably never should have get done. But honestly, the only thing I take out of spring training is watching him. And just like you said, Mike, just making sure these guys stay healthy. But I'm very, very happy and impressed with what we've seen with Spencer Jones. He looks very good. What do you think, Uncle Ted?
Yeah, from what I've seen of him, he looks great. I agree with Mike. You watch the beginning of that first preseason game, and then you're like, okay, let's get to opening day.
Yeah.
But with the Mets, I'm listen. I'm always going to carry for the whole year the madness of not having Pete Alonso. I'm going to be mad about that the whole year. But I honestly think this team is going to be better than it was last year. I mean, I love seeing Bo Bichette, Marcus Semien. Freddie Peralta is a beast, and it looks like they're going to sign him to an extension, which is great. I mean, Nolan McLean is now reported to Team USA. He was pitching really well. I'm excited about, I think, the kind of a year the Mets could have, and I think it's going to be good for baseball in New York. I think both the Mets and the Yankees are going to have really good regular seasons. I mean, I didn't think the Yankees are going to be much better than the Mets, but I think they're going to have really good regular seasons. It's going to be fun around here for a while.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we already had our first Giancarlo Stanton injury. Can't open a bag of chips. Can't open a bottle of water. But he still hit a 430-foot home run. That was crazy. So I don't care if he can't open a bag of chips. That's going to be Volpe's job, is to open the chips for him, just so he could keep swinging the bat the correct way. You know what I mean?
Let me tell you something about Stanton's home runs. And Uncle Ted, you'll agree with this even as a Met fan. His home runs, you can hear from 10 states away. They're never these little lucky home runs. His home runs are bombs. Absolute
They're
bombs.
violent.
And even when he's hurt, they're violent. Yeah. And he has that violent swing. But listen, with Stanton, Mike, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a concern. Can't open a bag of chips. You sent that to me, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty funny. This must be a meme. No, it was real. He actually can't open a bag of chips.
Direct quote.
That is a direct quote. And with him, look, with Stanton, you hope to get 50% of the games, honestly. Just get him in there 50%. Thankfully, the Yankees have an overflow of DHs, so losing him isn't the worst thing in the world. But he is a very important part of the lineup when he's playing well. But, man, Stanton, it doesn't.
Especially in the postseason. Just get him ready for October, because you need him in that lineup in October. That's when you want him to be there. I could care less what he does the rest of the year, because this team is good enough without him to get to the playoffs. But in order to get over that hump, you need that guy who can come up with that big hit, that big home run. And we've seen over time that he's able to do that. So I could care less what he's doing from April until September. But September comes along, get him ready to go. And then October baseball, let October Stanton start to take over.
I got to tell you something. You guys know I'm not the biggest Cashman fan. I think he's extremely overrated. And all of his big winnings were done when he had an unlimited checkbook. And if there was somebody he wanted, he got, But when you look at now, the way he operates, the Grisham thing, that was so dumb.
Yeah.
Because you do have a guy like Spencer Jones, and you have the Martian, Dominguez. Does he have any confidence in his ability, in his scouting department's ability, that these guys are said to be what they're going to be? And, maybe he should look at it the same way. And again, David Stearns, I'm not saying he's a genius, but at least with Carson Benj, he's saying, you know what? We really believe in this guy. And I think both Dominguez and Spencer Jones are better prospects than Carson Benj. I mean, Cashman's Cashman's bizarre. He really is bizarre.
Cashman has a very strange thing he does, and this has been happening for a while with him. He waits too long for some guys and keeps some guys around too long. And
Yeah.
Volpe is happening right now. He's going to stick with this guy until the day, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how long he wants to even hang around keeping him. And he did the same thing with Greg Bird, if you remember that.
Mhm.
Greg Bird, he loved Greg Bird. He kept talking about Greg Bird. Greg Bird wasn't good. And he
Bird's
just kept
the word.
Bird's the word. He just kept throwing him out there. My dream outfield for the Yankees was Bellinger in left, Spencer Jones in center, Aaron Judge in right.
Yeah.
That really was what should have happened. The Trent Grisham thing was so stupid. It really was. He has to reciprocate what he did last year, which I don't think he's going to do. Right? We're hoping he comes close. But yeah, listen, I like Cashman. I think Cashman has done a good job overall in his career. Yes, you're right. There was a point where he had unlimited resources, but he also made some good moves, and you have to give him credit for that. But there are some things that drive me crazy. And one of the big ones is, why isn't Spencer Jones coming up? He is absolutely ready and can make a huge impact on this team right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is the last couple of guys that they brought up. If you look at Volpe and Oswaldo Peraza and Oswaldo Cabrera and even Dominguez for a lot of it, they really haven't, when they've got up here, they really looked like they were, deer in the headlights for a lot of their at-bats. A lot of those guys were, 140 hitters when they were up here. So I think he's probably a little bit hesitant on that. But if you're the right guy, and Spencer Jones certainly could be that guy, you bring him up, and then you got to let him play. You got to figure out a way to get him in the lineup. I don't care how much money you pay Trent Grisham. If Spencer Jones is the guy, you deal him to somebody for a relief pitcher or something else that you might need at that point, because you got to let him. If he's the real deal, you got to let him play. So
exactly. And the thing, also, like you said, you said the thing about Dominguez, how maybe when he came up and he was hitting 140 or whatever, but sometimes, like, even I remember when the Mets brought up Darryl Strawberry, and he really he had a good first night, and then he really struggled for a while, and they stuck with him. I think sometimes you just got to stick with some of these guys and know that listen, they're going to struggle. I mean, it's going to happen. But if you stick with them, and Dominguez is looking good in the spring so far, I mean, I would have loved to have seen the Mets try to make a move for Dominguez. I would have loved to have given a flyer on him,
So Dominguez in 2024 batted 179. Last year batted 257, had 47 RBIs. So he's moving. He's continuing to grow. The problem with Dominguez is he can't field. He just flat out cannot field. That's the major issue with him. But no, you're right.
He had good fielding, but people talked about him being a really good center fielder for a long time.
They did, and I guess I don't know. Listen, left field, Yankee Stadium, maybe that gave him some trouble. Who knows? But if you watch him in the field, it's actually a liability, to be honest, having him in the field. But as far as his stats, I mean, he's been in the league for 2 years. He only played 56 games in 2024, but he's obviously getting better. So I want to see him consistently too.
Yeah, some of these guys might end up being, quadruple A players where they are really good in triple A and you got to bring them up, and then they just can't figure out a way to do it in the majors, because it is such a big jump to go from a place where you're playing in front of 5,000 or 7,000 people and you're pitching against somebody who's a career minor leaguer versus pitching against, Scooble and Skeens and all these other guys who are going to be facing on a week in, a day in and day out basis. And it's every single day. Minor league baseball is only 140 games. Every Monday you have off. It's not the same as the grind of a full MLB season with a lot more travel. You're not just going to Scranton and Lehigh Valley and, Harrisburg or wherever. You're going across the country multiple times in a month. So, it's definitely a big learning curve. So
yeah,
but we got
not to put the Yankees up on a pedestal, but the reality is there is a certain pressure playing for the Yankees, right? So when you get to the major league level and you put on that Yankee uniform and you walk out passing by Monument Park, you're in a stadium where there was so much success and arguably the best franchise in sports. It may not be arguable. It's actually a fact. There is a certain pressure that some guys just, can't handle. It really is. It's a real thing. But yeah, I'm still excited for both. I'm excited for both teams. Uncle Ted, like you said, I think it's going to be exciting for the Mets and the Yankees. Quite frankly, I really do. I think both teams are going to be good this year.
Yeah, I think
heard that
we were.
If the Yankees retire any more numbers, they're going to have to go into fractional numbers.
That's just what they do. Don't listen. Don't. It is what it is. And by the way, CC deserves to have his number retired.
100%
He
CC.
does not. He does not.
Why?
If you retire Reggie Jackson's number, if you retired Reggie Jackson's number and you retired Paul O'Neill's number, you got to put CC Sabathia in there for the way he basically took the team on his back for all the time, and for that one thing in Tampa where he threw at the guy and gave up the $1 million innings bonus because the guy got thrown at and he threw at him anyway, even though he knew he was going to lose out on the money.
The famous quote, "That's for you." I'm not going to say the word. That's for you.
Right.
B.I.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. Just come on.
Yeah.
No, I love
just that alone
Sabathia.
deserves his number retired.
I like CC Sabathia, but holy crap, how many numbers? And honestly, how do you not retire what's his face's number? A-Rod's number.
I'm with you. You should retire his number.
You should retire his number. I don't know.
He gets lumped in with the steroids and everything else.
I can't stand A-Rod. I can't stand him. I think he's the biggest phony of all time.
He is a phony.
I'm always going to be anti A-Rod, but yeah, he was such an integral part of that World Series they won.
Was.
So
correct.
But CC did everything right as a Yankee. He did. And he's just a fan favorite. The Yankee fan base obviously loves him. The organization loves him. It made sense for his number to get retired, even more than A-Rod, I would say, honestly, because he was a workhorse and, again, never did anything wrong. So,
yeah, no, but it's just that how many numbers?
You're right. But here's the thing. This is what we do, right? So it is what it is, right? There are definitely guys that shouldn't have had their number retired. There's no question. But I think CC, he's a guy that deserved it, in my opinion.
Well, they're going to start to go through all the 09 people. So, Brett Gardner's going to get one a couple of years. It's going to be a whole. They're going to have to find somebody else from those teams, unless they start to win World Series with this group. And then you get 99, you get 27. All those guys are going to get their numbers retired as well. So,
and when they retire another number, Mike and I are always going to have a reason why they should retire it. Like even Brett Gardner, we'll come up with stats like, remember back in 2006 he did this.
No, Mike, remember when he was banging the garbage can? Nobody banged the garbage can like Brett Gardner.
He smashed the roof of the dugout. Yeah. After he got called out on strikes. Yeah, exactly.
That was great.
Oh my God,
that was great.
All right, Mike, move on. Whatever.
So, but we will have our differing opinions on our baseball teams when it comes to Mets and Yankees, but we're all going to be on the same team again coming up here on this World Baseball Classic. We're all going to put on our stars and stripes again and be rooting hard for Team USA. And this Team USA team, I don't know if you guys have looked at the roster, but it is stacked. I don't know. I think they might have arguably the best roster of any of the teams out there, top to bottom, 1 to 25. Look at their starting pitching. It's crazy. Yeah. And then you have their top 6 in their lineup are all MVP guys. You have Cal Raleigh, Aaron Judge, all these guys on this team, and they just look like they're ready to go. So I'm excited to watch this World Baseball Classic. I think having it the same year as the Olympics is a big help for that thing because it's going to get everybody back into the gung-ho Stars and Stripes USA chant. So, curious what your guys' thoughts are on this World Baseball Classic coming up.
Yeah, the pitching staff is definitely as elite as it gets compared to like the DR. The DR versus USA, the roster, like the lineup, the starting 9. It's tough. You may have to give the edge to the DR, but the pitching staff is what makes the difference. So if you're going to look at who's better, they're both great, but the pitching staff to me is what makes the difference. And you're right, Mike. This is, I'm not a big WBC fan. I'm just not. I don't really get into it too much, but I'm in USA mode after the Olympics, right? So it's actually a perfect time to get into it. But you're right, Mike. The pitching is amazing, and obviously the lineup is great too. But Uncle Ted, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Mike. I think this USA team is stacked. But Jeff, you're right. This DR team, I mean, it has to come down to DR versus US for the championship, I think,
They
right? I
better.
mean, because I like seeing it. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I mean, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to root for USA, obviously, but yeah, I just want baseball to start.
I know.
That's the thing.
Yep.
It's just now you think spring training games were bad earlier. Now you're watching spring training games without your stars.
Yeah.
Like I'm watching and Soto waved to the crowd and he was gone.
Right.
And then McClain,
Yep.
I'm gone.
Judge is not there for the Yankees, right?
Yeah, exactly. So,
like who's Team USA playing next? Brazil or something, right? Like Australia? Like,
yeah,
I am. There's
Brazil,
no shot I'm
yeah.
watching. Yeah, I'm not watching that. There's no way.
No.
But
Yeah.
DR versus USA. If that happens, which
that's
I figure
a game.
it will. That's a game,
Yep.
man.
That's a
game.
Yep.
I think everybody's gonna watch. But like, I'm gonna be honest, man. Like, I'm as much as I love Team USA and I'm all in on it. I'm not sitting there watching 9 innings of Brazil baseball. There's no way.
I think there's too many teams. I think if you had it, like the 4 nations, like in hockey, where you just have 4 or 6 teams, I think that would make this much better than having some guys whose great grandfather was Italian, so he gets to be on Team Italy, even though he's never set foot in Italy ever in his life. Or the German team, which I don't know where they're getting those guys from, and all these other Brazil, like how many guys are playing on the Brazil team? I mean, I just don't get why you have to have 900 teams in this thing when it's really going to come down to U.S., Cuba, probably DR, Japan. Those are probably your 4 teams that are going to end up being the top 4. So just have those 4 teams. Like, don't make this whole thing up with all these crazy. Your second cousin's former roommate was from Germany, so you get to play on the Great Britain team. I just don't get it.
And you can
market
and
I don't know where the games
better.
are. Where are the games anyway? Like, I think Japan I saw Otani playing for Japan.
Yeah, they're playing. There's games in There's games in Tokyo, so all the Asian teams are playing in Tokyo. There's games I think in Puerto Rico, and I think there's games in LA and in Miami, I want to say. I think there's like 4 or 5 different sites, but I think the final is in San Diego.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I'm with you, Mike. You can market that so much better too if you have like a 4 nations as opposed to this long drawn out. Like, listen, no disrespect to Brazil. I'm an MMA fan. They have the best MMA in the world.
True.
Love Brazil, but baseball. Come on, nobody wants to watch Brazil baseball. Right, just like nobody would want to watch, USA cricket. Right, it doesn't make any sense.
Mike would.
Mike probably would. That is a good point. That's a good point.
I would.
You'd find a way to bet on it, and you'd be one of your Mike.
Exactly.
No doubt about it. But I'm with you, man. Like, just do a Final Four. Right. What's the most exciting part about college basketball? The Final Four. Right. Yeah. That's what the WBC should be. But it'll end up being those 4 teams anyway, so it's all good. Just a longer route to get there, I guess.
Exactly.
So I'm going to ask everybody for a pick right now in terms of who you think's winning this thing. I'm going Team USA. Jeff, what are you thinking?
It would be anti-American of me not to go Team USA, so I'm with you. I'm going Team USA.
I want to say Team USA. I want to say Team USA. I think they will win. I think it'll be really tough, but I think it's going to come down to them and DR.
All right. So we were all in lockstep. We got our red, white, and blue hats back on after a week off. But believe it or not, guys, we had our 2-week break of NFL football, and now we're back. We have the league year is about to start. We are going to be through the combine. The league year starts next week. We have our legal tampering period, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in terms of that. That's like the at most backward sentence you could possibly say is legal tampering. So that starts this week. Any thoughts from either of you guys on what the Jets and Giants are doing, or just anything around the league that you're seeing so far?
Well, look, for me, I'm in Harbaugh we trust mode. Whether that's the right mindset to have or not, that's just how I feel, right? However this guy wants to build the program, I'm going to let it ride, even if I disagree with some of the moves. That they were in on McDuffie, apparently. There was a rumor that
Yeah.
they made a big offer to the Chiefs. So that tells me they're big game hunting, this. And by the way, they should be, because this isn't, we're no longer in rebuilding mode, right? You pay a coach $100 million for 5 years. This is not a rebuild. This is, he comes in and wins now, right? So the Giants have work to do. That's the thing. Like, they have some talent. We know they have the quarterback. We think they have a running back if he can stay healthy. They got a good receiver. But the Giants need help in the secondary. They need a lot of help at the linebacker position. Even at receiver. I mean, outside of Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson's going to be gone because he's going to want a lot of money. Someone's going to pay him. Like, the Giants have some work to do. So I'm looking at the draft, and I'm looking at two guys that I think the Giants have to really focus on. And that's Caleb Downs, the safety, who they're saying is going to be potentially a generational talent. I hate that word until I see these guys in the league. But you guys watch college. He's a stud. Or on the same team, Carnell Tate, the wide receiver. Those are two, in my opinion, the points of attack for Harbaugh. He's got to get either somebody like a stud in the secondary to really ice that defensive backfield, or get somebody alongside Malik Neighbors and Carnell Tate. So that decision in the draft, I think, is going to be very interesting for the Giants. But it's going to be one of those two guys, I think.
Yeah. I followed, the combine. I kept an eye on what was going on, mostly listening to what people were talking about. I loved the fact that the Jets traded Jermaine Johnson for that Sweat guy, and that's
Yep.
what we needed, so we really needed that. And the same way, Jeff, you're in Harbaugh we trust. I'm on the in Muji we trust.
Yeah.
And from everything I've heard, whereas a year ago, Muji and Glenn came in where Glenn was the kind of big guy and Muji was below him. I've heard that that's kind of changed a lot now, because Muji's really shown what he can do as a GM. The funny thing I'm hearing from a lot of people is that Muji's kind of in the camp of, I'm not going to spend a ridiculous amount of money for a quarterback because we have those 3 picks next year, but I want quarterbacks who can be serviceable and we can win with. Whereas Glenn might be, well, we want to spend money for a big quarterback to win more games because his job is on the line. I don't think Muji's job is on the line, and Muji's looking at it the way you should look at it.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that he selectively attacks free agency so that when the draft comes, he doesn't have to draft certain people for a position. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to probably at some point be mocked for it, but I'm going to say this. You guys know I loved Jackson Dart last year. I loved him.
Yeah.
Loved him. I like Ty Simpson even more than I liked Dart last year. And I would love for the Jets to find a way to get him. And I'm going to say this. If you think that this guy could be the guy, I don't care. Take him with your 16th pick. I don't care. Take him. And if it doesn't work out and he doesn't look good, and because I don't want him to start right away, but if it doesn't look good, draft another quarterback next year. You're going to have 3. And I'll tell you right now, the Indianapolis Colts are going to be garbage next year.
Garbage.
They're pure garbage.
Yep.
And we may wind up with a top 3 pick from Indianapolis. You take that top 3 and the other 2, and you want to go to number 1 for Arch Manning, you got a chance. But there's going to be 7 quarterbacks coming out next year.
Right.
So if Ty Simpson's not the guy, just go back to the well. Who cares? But I think they have
especially
a chance
if it's a late first round.
Stuff. Yeah,
I agree with you.
Exactly.
If it's a late first round pick, kind of like with the Jackson Dart situation, if you love him, draft him when you can. And if it doesn't work out, again, you got 3 picks next year. And that you're right. The Indianapolis pick is probably going to be a pretty good one towards the
Yeah.
top of that draft. So
Do you
The other
guys
thing,
have
Mike,
do you guys have any interest in Kyler Murray?
no,
Zero,
No.
right?
but if they
Absolutely
no, but I'll
not.
tell you,
Because that name is
no.
floating around, by the way. You know that.
Listen,
that
I'm
name
going
is
to tell you
floating.
this: if they sign him, he's going to be the best quarterback we've had in the last 10 years. Okay, I don't want him, but I did hear today that Jacoby Brissett can be had for a third day pick. So a fourth, fifth, or sixth, probably a fourth. I would do cartwheels for Jacoby
Yep.
Brissett. Cartwheels.
Mhm.
Because he's the kind of guy that could mentor a young guy.
Yeah.
And if he's around in 2027 playing while the young guy you draft in the first round, starts learning, he'd be a perfect guy for a couple of years. Perfect.
I agree.
I also
And
like Derek Carr. I don't know.
You mentioned the mentoring. That is such an underrated aspect for a quarterback coming in the league. Like, listen, you can laugh at me because I know that I was on the Russell Wilson train, but I truly believe that Russell Wilson
Mr.
helped Jackson Dart,
Unlimited.
Mr. Unlimited. But I think he was a part of helping Jackson Dart grow and be able to be ready right away when he started. Right? Look, Jackson Dart had the talent, but I think, in terms of being in the classroom, learning how to be a professional, he took him under his wing, right? So even if
Yeah.
it was a small sample size, you're right, Uncle Teddy, getting somebody in here that can mentor a young kid is huge. And I think
Yeah.
that would be a great pick for you. I'm not a big Brissett guy as far as his play, but he's a veteran, been around for a long time, been in a lot of different situations, understand the ebbs and flows of the game. I think he'd be a great pick for you guys on a 5th or 6th round trade. Amazing pick for you guys.
I'd even give up a fourth for him. I really would.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you
especially
could
with
all the
Frank
picks you
Reich.
have. Yeah.
And I will say I think the underrated person in that Giant locker room, just to add to your point there, Jeff, was Jameis Winston. I think Jameis Winston was such a mentor. I've heard him on a couple of different interviews over, the Super Bowl weeks and a little bit afterward, where he just talked about how great that quarterback room was in terms of Russell and him and Jackson all getting together and really just making sure whichever one of the three of us was playing was going to have everybody else's support, and we're going to be helping you with whatever you need. And it was just a great room. So give both of those guys credit when it comes to that. So
yeah, you heard no stories, and usually stories come out about problems in the locker room with those guys. And you have guys, Jackson Dart, who's a young kid with a lot of testosterone ready to go. You got Russell Wilson with an ego. You have Jameis Winston, who is a starter, right? A first-round pick. And the egos never blew up in that room, which is surprising. It really is. But you're right. That chemistry in that room it's huge.
Can I
really,
ask
really
us
big.
to make a guess? Abdul Carter now is said he's going to change his number again. I got to tell you, I'm really tired of this guy. I'm so tired of this guy.
You're tired of him.
So can we make a guess now, each one of us, and see see if one of us nails it? What number he wants to change to?
Oh God,
Jeff, what do you think? What number do you think he wants to change to?
I want to see the sack number change. That's what I like to see. But his jersey number, I mean, I you know what? He's a lunatic. I can't even venture to guess. It's got to be, I guess, maybe a single digit number, because I'm gonna go with 9. Let's go with 9.
9. Okay, Mikey, what do you think?
I'm gonna go with 1. I think he's gonna go with 1.
Oh,
that's
what I was gonna say.
You might be right.
That's what I was saying. Number 1.
Is there a number 1 on the Giants, right? No, Malik Neighbors is number 1.
Oh, that's right. He can't, he might
say,
right. He might say, "Well, Malik, I'm better than you.
Yeah,
I should
kick
get that."
rocks, buddy. Kick rocks.
Yeah.
Please,
maybe he's gonna go to 90. I'm gonna say 99. 99.
But Aaron Judge. All
Honestly,
right.
listen, I actually think Abdul Carr is going to have a good year under Harbaugh, because he's going to have to be in check, man. You're not showing up late to meetings. You're not falling asleep in meetings. You're not half-assing it. So I actually think Abdul Carter, as much as I'm annoyed with him, I think he's going to show that he's the guy that we drafted this year, or at least remotely close to that. I think he's going to have a good year.
All right.
Just keep the microphones away from him. Don't let him talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Just let him play. That's it. The problem with being in New York is there's always going to be 14 microphones in front of your face. Someone's going to ask a question about that in terms of your number or what do you think of what this person said, and it's always going to turn into a big story because those reporters are foaming at the mouth for something to come out and say something about the teams, more so with the Jets than the Giants typically, but it's something that happens with both teams where in the city you have more media scrutiny than anywhere else in the country.
By far.
Well, somebody said today, I heard, they said if Kyler Murray comes to the Jets, it's not going to be like Glendale after a game. So if he made a crazy pitch that went out of bounds and gave the other team the ball or something, and somebody asks him about it and he answers it, that's not going to be the end of it. There's going to be 14 follow-ups on his rationale for it. So they said that's going to be a little different if he does come here. And I think that's a reason why I don't want him here. But Jacoby Brissett is such a veteran. I would love to see Jacoby here. So
no, well, I don't want Kyler Murray anywhere near here.
Yeah, Frank Reich doesn't like small quarterbacks.
That's
which
true.
I don't either. I think small quarterbacks. When was the last time a small quarterback won a championship?
Drew Brees.
Right. Exactly.
It's a long time ago.
It's a long time ago. So I don't see. I know that his name was out there just circulating, but I don't see any way he goes to the Jets. I'd be shocked. Absolutely shocked.
I hope not. I hope that that's not where we end up, where we're sitting here and we're going to defend Kyler Murray in terms of thinking that he's going to do enough to get this team to win. Because in Arizona, the Arizona Cardinals are the most blah, nothing franchise, and you still manage to have all these stories come out about you playing video games and all this other stuff that went on in Arizona, where no one cares about that team. And then all of a sudden you're going to come to New York and be in the Jets and be in that firestorm? No, thank you. Stay as far away as you can. Go play in, New Orleans or somewhere else. I don't know. Find some other place to play.
Exactly.
So, well, we got plenty of time to go before the draft. We will have more to come on that. Why don't we get some mush picks, guys? We've been a while. I got to recap a whole bunch of them here from the last couple of times because there are some that have finally gotten to fruition. We're going to start with the good first, with the USA hockey gold medal. We had that and then some. I was 100% on board with them to start with, so we'll get that as a win. USA over 12.5 gold medals. Of course, we got 12 because of that stupid ice dancing medal that we got screwed on by the French judge. So I'm going to count that as the over 13 gold medals because of that. But we came very close. We needed those 2 gold medals from hockey, and we got them. I was expecting one from curling at some point, but we lost the team, the mixed doubles curling. We lost the gold medal game, so there's a couple of ones where we were very close and got silver medals. So we got those 2 in terms of Team USA, and then for my mountaineering picks, T-Bolt Asmolet got the bronze medal for the men's mountaineering. He ended up getting the gold in the team event with the women, the mixed team sprint. And then for Juliana Murata from Italy, she finished 5th in the women. So not great there, but they were competitive. I think Italy finished 5th in the mixed doubles as well in terms of mountaineering. So I don't know if you guys got a chance to watch that. That was pretty cool. Where you're on skis, then you got to take the skis off, then you got to climb up these steps, then you got to put the skis back on. It was quite an event to watch.
Yeah, that looked like it was really tough. Like it reminded me of when I used to go the kids and do winter sports, and I would have to carry everything and then dump everything off and then run to the car. Jeff, you remember all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Teddy's running to the car to get this, so it kind of, I went into PTSD for that. But yeah, that was crazy. I don't know how people do that sport.
Right, because they have the whole part of it was the transition to go from the climbing to the skiing. You had to take your skis off, put them back on, put them on your back, take the poles out. It was like a whole. It did. It felt like you were you were bringing kids to a sporting event. That's what it felt like. And you forgot your pole at the bottom. You got to go back down and go get it. It's a whole thing. So I felt it for sure. So, but I do have
Yeah.
picks for this week. I found them in Florida here. The DraftKings didn't work as well as I thought, but we're going to go back to an old well. We're going to go to Danish handball, Old Faithful parlay, 3-team parlay. All these games are on Saturday. I'm going to take the Skanderbong team -4.5 against Norges Jelland. That's on Saturday at 10 a.m. I'm going to take the TMS Ringstred +3.5 at the GOG handball team. And then I'm going to take Frederica -2.5. Frederica is everyone's favorite ex-girlfriend, I'm sure. Everybody's had a Frederica in their life at some point. I'm going to take Frederica -2.5 versus Sonderjysk. Mikey Mush's picks for this week, Danish handball. Let's have some fun. Guys, this was a lot of fun here this week. I will be back in the Northeast. Next week, we will have more updates. We're getting close to March Madness. I think conference basketball tournaments start next week or this weekend, I think it's when they start.
This week.
And Mike,
yeah,
this is like
so
your number one, or this was in your top 5 sporting events too, right?
Yeah,
March
absolutely,
Madness.
because starting, I
Yeah,
think,
it's great.
tomorrow, I think you're going to have college basketball on from like noon to midnight every day between now and like April something. So I'm all in on the college basketball coming up. So we will definitely
Mikey,
be ready to go. So
if Manhattan plays Peters in the MAC championship in Atlantic City, you coming?
100%, I will be there.
And just an update, Sacred Heart is up by 12 over Iona with half a minute left to play.
Lovely.
So Iona looks like they're going to get knocked out. Also, Mike, it's weird. You were talking about the Danish handball. I've seen a lot of Danish handball movies, and none of those names did I remember from the movies.
I think you're thinking of a different hand from what you're thinking. So
that's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. So ask your parents about that one, kids. So anyway, this has been fun, guys. Thanks for joining. Please like and subscribe. Tell your friends. We have a lot of fun here. And we will catch you all next week.
Have a good night.